What ho and hello! It is myself, Mr. B, Forgotten Temples, Cambodia, and I already know what you are thinking. You're thinking to yourself, Mr. B, this time you've got a really big one for us. Well, you're absolutely right. It is an absolute corker of a temple, isn't it? And this is just the initial view. Have a look. Wow, it's like being in the Valley of the Kings. Well, where are you, Mr. B? Well, I'm at Baset, which is in Baset, and there's a few temples round here I'm filming today, and each and every one is an absolute delight. The difference here in the temples in this area, and do remember, this is an 11th century temple, by the way, before they built Angkor Wat, and what they liked to do in this area was give it a bit more space, a bit more room, as you can see. And to me, it looks so much better. And it's such a delight to see these things. We have an enormous plinth that must have held, just through that doorway, one almighty Goliath of a statue. And there's some lovely carvings, and it's all in this lovely countryside. So let me not waste any more time, and you and I, let's hold hands and go for our little explore around another ancient wonder. Right, so this is the best place to start, isn't it? This fantastic walkway. And it is imposing, isn't it? Let's have a look. We have these fantastic windows either side. And it is, well, for goodness sake, it has so many echoes of Egypt, doesn't it? There we have a doorway. And talking of doorways, a window to the left, have a look at this monster. Now, that is approximately, well, it's wider than I'm tall. It's over 6 feet. That's about 7 feet wide. And as we go in, we have another absolute mind bender of a treat, but it could be so much better. Look at this plinth. Now I'm gonna have to give you my Mr. B standard size. Now, as we know, and I think we both agree, that this is a recognized size in Europe, and it's the Mr. B shoe size, you see. So that there is a single unit of Mr. B shoe. So we could get about 3 or 4 shoes this way. So, but it gives you an idea as to the size of this thing. And it is colossal. Now, what we've got to bear in mind is, let me just Scooby-Doo over to the right here, because there's a doorway and I can get a bit more angle, is when you walked into this temple, here would have been a statue that simply would have taken your breath away. Now, from the statue, now this would have been the Sanctum Sanctorum, obviously from the Latin there, which, you know, it's the Holy of Holies, really, isn't it? And as we come out, there's another building here I wish to show you. But what is interesting to me is all these would have stood atop of the shikras. They would have been the pinnacles, and there's a little forest of them. Now bear in mind, these would have been way up in the sky, and nobody would have seen them really. I mean, a few birds, but did that stop the ancient temple builders from doing an unbelievable job? I mean, here's my fingernail, and have a look at the detail. It is quite amazing. Now, if there is one word I've repeated here at this temple, then that is detailed. And the reason is, usually when I find these temples, you know, the statues, the carvings and the detailing such as this has already been plundered. But on one of these rare occasions, we can actually see these. Now this is obviously a dragon here with this incredibly intricate carving. But what to me is particularly impressive is the whole temple around here would have been proliferated with this. So why did this survive? Well, he was up there. He was above a doorway and the like. But with time, it's usually the roots attacking the temple and separating those blocks, and down they come, and then the dust of the age is covering it up. And then they have been recently recovered and placed here at our eye line. So this is a rare treat to have a closer look. Now I'm going to do my usual fingernail thing. And I'm not touching it, by the way. It is just minuscule, and you've got to imagine there was literally thousands of temples, and when you're using a copper tool that blunts continuously, because you may as well be using, I don't know, a stick of ice cream, because they're not very tough, are they? Copper just bends and twists. This whole area would have just been people dunk, 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 banging away, and God forbid you should make a mistake, and they must have, because there's no going back from it. If you get this mighty dragon's one of his teeth wrong, you have no option but to start again. It must have been pretty scary work for those that were just starting off. And that is Baset Temple. And what I particularly like about the temples in this area, and as I said they are slightly earlier than Angkor Wat, is the builders and the architects seem to have given more space to the people. There's more volume. You can get a much better feel in the inside, whereas those of Angkor Wat are just proliferated with pillars. They seem to have lost their function and have gone a bit too far into the religion. And maybe that's why, although they are ridiculously grand, they don't really appeal to me. It's these that appeal to me. And maybe it's because of the way they're designed. They are more about the people and not so much about the propaganda, if I may use that term, of religion. They have more function than they do just form. So it's an absolute treat to meet this. As always, this has been Mr. B of Forgotten Temples of Cambodia, and until next time when I ask you to join me on another quick 10-minute romp, some foreign land, some dusty road that will take us to something ancient and extraordinary, I can only wish you one thing, and that is the very best. Take good care.